Hi, my name is Damon Brown of DamonBrown.net. My thing is helping solopreneurs, side hustlers, and other non-traditional entrepreneurs bloom. Again, you can learn more about me at DamonBrown.net and check out my new book, Build From Now. I want to talk about how you can do a TED Talk. I've actually done four of them. I just did my fourth one earlier this year on Build From Now, how to know your power, see your abundance, and nourish your world. Again, you can pre-order at DamonBrown.net. Comes out late January 2021. Got special bonuses, so get over there before January 28th at DamonBrown.net, or you can grab it on the other platforms, including audiobooks. And I did end up doing a TED Talk about it. It was my fourth TED Talk in 6 years, 7 years. I did my first TED Talk when my kid was about to turn 1, and my kid is going to be 8 in this upcoming year. So whatever math that is, 6.5 years. And that's one of the biggest questions that I get is how do you do a TED Talk? How do you get a TED Talk going? There's actually three things that all TED speakers I found have in common. And I've been going to TED for like 10 years. So I would trust myself on this one. If you want to learn more about what I'm talking about, go over to damonbrown.com because it's inspired by one of my ink columns. There's three things that all TED speakers, successful TED speakers I found have. Number one, they're going to be of service. Number two, they're going to be present. And number three, they're going to be themselves or be yourself. So number one, be of service. One of the rules of TED, which a lot of people don't know, is that you can't sell from the stage. This ain't Tony Robbins. No offense to Tony Robbins. This ain't Tony Robbins. This is a Gary Vee. This isn't anybody else. It's like, no, you go on there. You are going to be of service. So for those 3-minute talks, which is my first TED Talk, to as long as 18 minutes, which at least until recently was the limitation for TED Talks. You always notice that they usually don't go longer than 18 minutes. They're always of service. And so I've been going to the TED conference again. I think I just went to my 8th TED conference last year. And when you go to the TED conference, the main thing that people want is for you to contribute your big ideas to this collective. And the main TED conference, not TEDx's, which are a lot smaller, but the main TED conference that happens once a year now it's in Vancouver, it's only like 1,500 people. And everyone there is trying to contribute their idea to help elevate the conversation and help support the other people with their ideas. So it's not about selling your stuff. The stage is the exact same way. Another secret, you do not get paid for TED Talks. So I'm on the same stage as, say, Bill Gates and Bono from U2. None of us are getting paid. Now, when I've done some of my TED Talks, they've actually paid for the lodging and the travel, the flights and all that stuff, and they gave me a badge to come into the conference, which, man, the conference itself can be in the 5 figures. So that in itself is a big payment, and they're really selective. Again, 1,500 people. There's only so many people who can come through. So I've been honored enough to be able to come through almost every single year. But you don't get paid for it. So again, it pushes this idea of service. So what are you trying to say? Back when I was in grad school for journalism, got my master's in magazine publishing at Northwestern many, many years ago. Now it's decades. And the biggest lesson I got from that period of time, including my undergrad at Oakland University back in Detroit, was that if you're going to write, then make sure you have something to say. Otherwise, it's just noise. For instance, again, my new book, Build From Now. This book wouldn't exist if I wasn't contributing to the conversation. Otherwise, this book would not exist. I'm not going to write another book just because I want to write another book or I want to make some money or whatever. No, this needs to be part of the conversation. I'm adding this to the conversation, right? Same thing with your TED Talk. So it's not coming from the standpoint of, I want to do a TED Talk. I want to be on the stage. I want to be on the proverbial red dot. If you watch TED Talks, they're on a big red dot. I want to be on the proverbial red dot. And I want that success and say, I'm a TED speaker. No. It has to come from a place of service. My first TED Talk, I didn't say I was going to be on the TED stage. Being on the stage would be nice, but I wasn't even a professional speaker at that time. I spoke a little bit, but not really on that level. I definitely had been a paid speaker. But I was called on the stage because I had something in particular to say. If you want to check out my own TED Talks, go over to damonbrown.net. I have them embedded in there. Or better yet, go to TED.com and look up Damon Brown. And you can see my latest 2 TED Talks over the last couple of years. So number one, you want to be of service. Number 2, you want to be present. Now, being present, what I would recommend in the past, when things were a little bit more social, is to actually get yourself to a TED conference. The main TED conference, of course, is spectacular. It's like, if you're into opera, it's like going to the Met. You know what I mean? It's like going to the Sydney Opera House or whatever it's called down in Australia. It's like, it's like going to the Globe over in England, like, Shakespeare's old place. Like, it's that level. What I would recommend normally is say, well, that's tough to get in there, right? Was able to get in there. But then there's a ton of TEDx's. But we happen to be in the middle of a pandemic as I'm recording this, and so doing that isn't safe. And also, I'm sure most of the TEDx's, which are the local TEDs, aren't doing their thing anyway, or probably shouldn't be, even with their small sizes. But there's an advantage there. That means that almost all the TEDx's, and I'm familiar with a lot of them, are virtual now. So that means you can be live watching a TEDx, not TED Ed. TED Ed is what I watch with my kids. TEDx, watching a TEDx, like you're watching me right now, as I'm watching you right now. So there's no excuse to not be sitting there and watching the live dynamics of a TEDx or even a TED speaker, because now the main TED conference has been virtual over the past year too. I went there in May or June. So if you're going to do a TED Talk, people that do TED Talks are familiar with TED, and they see the flow and they see the cadence, they see the feel. And again, in more social times where social distancing wasn't as important, actually being on the ground, sitting in the seat, and hearing the speakers, it takes you to a different level. I love the experience, even as a voyeur, even as an attendee, even when I'm not speaking. In fact, sometimes I enjoy it even more because I don't have the nervousness and I just concentrate on the beauty of all these professional speakers speaking. And even people who aren't professional speakers, which leads to number 3. Number 1, you want to be of service. You're not there to sell products. You do not sell from the stage. I've done 25 books. I've never mentioned my books on the stage. That is literally a rule. But also, it when you're selling from the stage, it changes the cadence. And it makes it feel like that it's not of service, but of commerce. So number 1, be of service. Number 2, you want to be present. That means attend as many of these TED things as you can. And when you actually are speaking at TED or speaking at any event, make sure that you're focused on the audience and not trying to get to the buffet line or trying to get a paycheck afterwards or all those other things. Third, which all ties into this, is to be yourself. Be yourself. One of the unfortunate things with TED is that now, as it's grown in popularity, there is a formula of a TED Talk. And there's some excellent parodies out there. I'm not trying to be like stoic about it. People shouldn't tease TED. I tease TED all the time. Actually, like, I know Chris, the head of TED right now. I know a lot of people in the organization. I've done a book with them. I did a book called Our Virtual Shadows. I've worked with their publishing arm. I've written about them. Again, I'm talking about a column I did for Inc. So it's at damonbrown.com. Like, I love TED, and at the same time, it's possible to take things too seriously when it comes to that. But because so many people know the TED brand, they worry about how they fit into that brand. And so if they want to do a TED Talk, then they'll be like, oh, well, I have to do it like this. And I have to dress like Steve Jobs with mom jeans and a turtleneck. Rest in peace to Steve Jobs. But I have to do this. Or I have to just state my hands. Or I have to make really salient points and be super quiet. And then I have to do it like this. Like, and trying to formalize it. And so it's possible to, as I talked about in number 2, be present and learn the style of the people who are presenting at TED without losing who you are. Check out my last TED Talk. It was September 2020. Go to TED.com and go and search for Damon Brown. The talk, which is based on my new book, Built From Now, was called How to Build Power Wherever You Are. Look it up. Check it out. I'm talking to you. It was a virtual talk, so I'm talking to you the same way I was doing the TED Talk for those 13 or 14 minutes. And my cadence is probably similar, hopefully a little bit more polished. This is a TED Talk. But my cadence is similar. I might have been wearing the same clothes. I don't know. I haven't watched the talk in a little while, but it's making the rounds. It's been a few months. But the thing is that I am myself when I do a TED Talk. I got asked to do the TED Talk It was for TEDx Toledo. Shout out to them and to Will Lucas who runs it. But I went ahead and was asked to talk with them because of the content that I'm already bringing. It wasn't like, well, Damon, you could do a TED Talk if you do it like this. Or it wasn't, oh, okay, you seem to be just like a TED person, so we'll have you speak. No, 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 no. No. I've been doing my thing for a long time. I was doing my thing even before TED asked me to the stage, what did I say, 7 years ago or so. In fact, with that first TED Talk, the energy was a little bit different than the other talks that were before me and after me. So again, you being present and knowing the energy of TED, that's one thing, but that doesn't mean you manipulate or change your energy to be accepted by the TED audience. And the thing is that I don't know how many TED Talks I've seen, because there's about 100 TED Talks that you end up seeing during the week that TED happens. So at this point, I've probably seen 1,000. Right? Because I've been going to TED for like 8-9 years, and I've been going to TEDx's. So I've seen 1,000 or so TED Talks in person. Rough math. And you can tell. You can tell the people who are saying, I'm going to say this, or come on stage and appeal to the TED audience, versus maybe some diamonds in the rough, or people who might curse on stage, which usually doesn't happen at TED. One of my favorite speakers, Ron Finley, who talks about urban farming, and he started a garden over, I want to say in South Central LA, but it's definitely in that area. I want to say South Central though. South Central Inglewood, somewhere around there. And his thing was plant some shit. That was his thing. And the audience just died. It was just cracking up. And I was laughing hard because he's another fellow African American male, another brother. He's probably a little bit older than me, closer to my mother's generation. And I just related to what he said because he's talking about urban gardening. And he's talking to my generation. And he's talking to African American males, maybe African Americans in general, women or people of color who have not been appealed to as far as with gardening. Gardening wasn't hyped up when I was growing up. It still isn't. But hearing him, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll go plant some shit. That was not part of the TED formula. But the TED Talk did extremely well. I was in the audience. I was in tears, laughing so hard because I thought it was fantastic. And he was himself. And years later, I still follow him on social media, say hi every once in a while because we got a chance to meet afterwards. And that's who he is. That's who Ron Finley is. You follow him on Instagram, which is a really good follow on Instagram. You follow him on Instagram at Ron Finley. He has the same exact energy that he had on the TED stage when I saw him. I want to say 2015. Go to TED.com or I'll try to remember to put in the notes and check out his talk. His talk is so genuine, but it's so different than the other talks. But he knew how to present himself in a way so that he was a genuine self. And he also knew the TED format enough so that he was able to respect those 18 minutes. And again, be of service and be present. So if you want to do a TED Talk, concentrate on the surface, concentrate on being present, and concentrate on being yourself. That's the formula. I wish there was more to it, but there's really not. And it might be good to go to the TEDx's. If you can go to TED.com and look up TEDx, and you can find a map where you can find all the different TEDx's that are happening literally around the world. The good thing is, as I record this, pretty much everyone's sheltering in place. So if you want to be involved in a TEDx, then you might be recording from home or from wherever your locale is. And that means you don't have to fly anywhere. And maybe things will be a little bit more open too, or maybe they'll be a little bit more open to taking you on as a speaker, particularly if you're a first timer. Anyway, if you wanted more insight as far as the resources that you can capitalize on and actually make an impact on the world, no matter where you are, take my Build From Now quiz. It's based on the new book, Build From Now, coming out January 28th, 2021. Again, you can order it from damonbrown.net and get a really special gift as a pre-order. You can also order it from your favorite book platform as an audiobook, as a digital book, or as a paperback, which, as you can tell, I love. If you want to learn more about mastering your resources before the book comes out and get prepped for it, and you can do it for free, go over to buildfromnowquiz.com. Again, it's based on the book. Build is backwards. Build from now quiz.com. It's a free quiz. It's not even an assessment. It's not that deep. It's a free quiz, 3-4 questions. Hundreds of y'all have taken it. It takes literally a couple minutes, you'll get insight about your biggest resource between focus, agility, time, and energy. Focus, agility, time, and energy. I call them the fates. You will learn more about how you can maximize and build from now. At this very moment, go to buildfromnowquiz.com. And remember to always bring your worth and that you can always build from now. Take care.